I became a teacher by chance and an educator by choice. I realized early on that it wasn't just about teaching students, it was about shaping the nation's true wealth, its children. And so I made this promise to myself: every day must count, every class must matter, every child is important. My work may just be a drop in the ocean, but that drop had to create ripples. And so I started devising activities and strategies for my learners, not just to teach their lessons, but to shape their character. One of the most fascinating and much loved of these was the name game. It started as a fun activity and became so much more. I would guess their strengths and qualities based on the meaning of their names. It sparked curiosity and helped them to see themselves in a new light, sometimes for the very first time. In many cultures, names are not random. They are blessings wrapped in syllables, chosen with love, care, and meaning. You will not hear of a newborn named Ravan or Kekai. Instead, you will hear names like Om, Samriddhi, Arjun, and more such names which are rooted in hope and aspiration. A name can be a gift, and yet sometimes we replace it with careless labels. As teachers, as adults, and as a society, we often swap these sacred names with thoughtless tags. Inadvertently, I too have made that mistake. This incident shattered my ego and changed my life forever. Once, I asked my entire class of students to write anonymously a quality about me that I needed to change in myself. I was confident the responses wouldn't be worth serious consideration, but I was wrong. While most comments were kind, one of them pierced through my shield. It read, "In every assignment, you label me as slow." Such a small word, slow. But it hit me hard. And why? Because I'd labeled a child. And that was something I never wanted to do any of my students. And here, unknowingly, I was doing the exact same thing that I disliked the most. I was creating limits. What do these labels do? They put the child in a box, chip away at his self confidence, create limits until the child becomes that label. I realized it was time for course correction for me. Inner work. I started looking for possibilities. I noticed that the boy may be slow in writing, but he had an exceptionally neat hand, letters as if pearls arranged on paper. I started calling out what was right in him, his effort, his strategy to answer high value questions, and gradually his opinion and attitude changed. But this incident took me back in time to my own childhood. I remember this girl being laughed at and labeled bad at English. She often heard uncomplimentary remarks about herself. I remember it was grade 6 when, as a class, we were asked to write an essay on the autobiography of a shoe. No internet, no devices, just books, and that too in faraway libraries. The girl wanted to make a difference. She sat with the cobbler at the corner of her street, understood the process of shoemaking, wove a story around it, and presented it with pride the following day. And the remark she earned? "Whose work have you copied?" At that moment, her effort became invisible. All they saw was the label, bad at English. The girl retreated into silence. This time, with self-doubt. She continued to work hard though, and later a neighbor mentored her to excellence. But as a teacher, it made me realize something vital. Labels may seem harmless in passing, but to a child, they become his identity. Sometimes we label children thinking we are disciplining them. This is not discipline. This is damage. Neuroscience believes that the words we hear about ourselves, they shape the neural pathways in our brain. They alter the motivation, resilience, and thereby brain development. Children don't simply hear labels. They don't even question them. They become them. A label is like a lens through which the world starts to see the child, and sadly, through which the child learns to see himself. Pygmalion effect says, and it has been researched by Stanford too, when you expect more from an individual, they deliver more, they rise. When you expect less, they deliver less, they shrink. And yet, even the best of students is susceptible to being labeled. And this is how I'll share an experience. One afternoon in my class, I had this uncanny feeling. You know, the kind at the nape of the neck when somebody is watching you? I could sense a presence through the glass window of the closed door. It happened again the next day and the day after. And on the fourth day, it was accompanied by a knock. The door opened just enough for a familiar face to peek in. There stood one of my brightest and most well-behaved of all the students. She came in, sat down, and said softly, "You must be aware of what has happened." I looked her in the eye and nodded. The girl had been caught passing a love note to a classmate. She continued, "You're the only teacher who has not judged me. I realize my mistake and I will not do it again. But no one is letting me forget that. I can't focus. I'm afraid my grades will drop and that'll give them another chance to point fingers at me. I just want to disappear. May I sit in your room, away from everyone?" In that moment, I realized that children don't just fear punishment. They fear being reduced to that one wrong act, one moment when they slipped up. The girl didn't need a lecture. She just needed some space to recover. And I'm glad she spoke because most children do not. They just hide behind invisible walls. I encouraged her to speak directly to the school head with the same plea to fight her own battle. And she did, brilliantly. Moments like these and many more down the years helped me to devise a strategy which I have now come to call as LIFT strategy. LIFT. Drop the label, lift the child. LIFT being an acronym here where L stands for listen without judgment. Listen to their words. Listen to their silence. Listen deeply, but without judging. I inspire with belief. Let your belief be a child's borrowed confidence till they develop their own. Replace "you can't" with "I believe you can," and that will change the script in their head. F, focus on their strengths. No one is perfect. We all have our shortcomings, but we also have our strengths. Let the children know what they are good at and not what they lack. Let them also know that their mistakes don't define them. T, transform with kindness. Choose every opportunity to connect and not to correct. I learned an invaluable lesson on this through an unforgettable experience. As an English teacher, I insisted that every child in my class would read aloud, speak, and participate in class discussions. A boy in my class had speech fluency disorder. Asking him to contribute required time, patience, and cooperation, not just from me, but from the entire class. And we gave every time. And what a reward it was! He brought such rich thoughts, ideas, and deep insights to every discussion. He didn't just participate, he elevated it. In the parents' meet that followed later, I came to know that his speech impairment was not by birth. It was the outcome of a deep rooted trauma. Profound realization dawned upon me then. Our classrooms are full of young children who may be fighting silent battles of their own, of which we have no idea. The least we can do is be kind. No exceptions, no conditions. Just be kind. So today I'm here to ask you, let us stop labeling our children for what they got wrong, and let us start calling out what is right. Replace labels with belief. Swap shame for support. Trade judgment for joyful observation. Because if we can name the problem, we can also name the possibility. Every name has a light. Don't let it dim under the weight of a careless label. I ask you, dear audience, with a show of hands, of the 3 children in my talk, the slow boy is confidently growing his family business. The invisible girl is pursuing masters at a renowned university. And the cobbler student for an evening is right here before you. The labels didn't win. And they won't win against our children either. All it takes is one encouraging and understanding mentor who can make the child focus on right action. And in this interconnected world of learning, it is very easy for a child to find one such mentor. Someone who listens without judgment, who inspires with belief, who focuses on their strengths, and who transforms with kindness. But the big question to you today is, do you want to be remembered by your children, students, and learners as a mentor or as a tormentor? Thank you.